It was a bright morning at the naval base. Inside the large dining hall, laughter and chatter filled the air. Young cadets in crisp uniforms sat around long wooden tables, eating breakfast and sharing stories. The room smelled of coffee, toast, and polished brass. It was reunion day, a special event where old officers met the new generation. Flags hung proudly on the walls, and a banner above the stage read, "Honoring those who served." Before we dive into video, please subscribe my channel. Everyone seemed happy and relaxed, unaware that something unforgettable was about to happen. At the far end of the hall, the heavy door opened slowly. The sound of laughter faded for a moment as a cold breeze slipped inside. An old man stepped in quietly. His clothes were simple, a faded olive-green military shirt and worn-out boots. His hair was silver, his face marked by deep lines of time and battle. He looked like someone who had carried the weight of many years and many memories. No one recognized him. A few young cadets turned their heads, whispering to one another. "Who's that?" one asked. "Maybe a retired officer?" another guessed. The guards at the door exchanged confused glances. The man didn't have a guest badge. He wasn't on the invitation list. He walked slowly, each step echoing softly on the wooden floor. There was something calm but powerful about him, the kind of silence that makes people stop and look. The Admiral, seated near the front table, noticed the stranger. He was a tall, sharp man in his 50s, wearing a dark blue dress uniform full of medals and ribbons. His name was Admiral Charles Bennett, known for his discipline and strict manners. He frowned slightly as he watched the old man approach. Something about that face felt familiar. The room fell silent. Forks and spoons stopped midair. The only sound was the faint hum of the ceiling fans. The old man looked around the hall slowly, as if searching for someone. His eyes were tired but sharp. He seemed to carry a story no one else knew. "Excuse me, sir," one of the guards said politely, stepping forward. "Can I help you? This is a private event." The old man nodded once. His voice was calm but strong. "I'm here to see the Admiral." The guard hesitated, glancing at Admiral Bennett. The Admiral gave a small nod. "It's all right," he said. "Let him through." Every eye followed as the old man walked closer. Some of the cadets whispered again, this time softer. "Who is he? Maybe someone important? He looks like he's been through a lot." The old man stopped a few steps away from the Admiral. For a moment, they just stared at each other. It was as if time had frozen between them. Two men from different worlds. One at the end of his journey, the other still leading his fleet. The Admiral stood up, adjusting his cap. His voice was steady but curious. "Good morning, sir. Have we met before?" The old man smiled faintly. "Perhaps. It was a long time ago." The Admiral studied his face closely. Those eyes, they seemed to carry something he had seen only once before. In the middle of fire, fear, and courage. "Were you in the service?" the Admiral asked. The old man nodded. "Yes, many years ago." A small group of officers had gathered nearby, pretending not to listen but unable to look away. The hall had gone quiet again. Even the clatter of dishes in the kitchen had stopped. "What unit?" The Admiral continued gently. The old man's expression changed. A shadow passed over his face. He took a slow breath, looking down at the floor as if remembering ghosts buried deep in time. "I was part of Squadron Delta," he said quietly. The Admiral froze for a second. That name, Squadron Delta, hadn't been spoken in years. It was one of the most secret units of the old war. Most of them never returned from their final mission. The Admiral had read their reports when he was a young officer. Every soldier in that squadron was listed as missing in action. The Admiral's voice softened. "Delta Squadron? That's impossible. They never came back." The old man raised his eyes, calm and steady. "Not all of them," he said. A wave of whispers moved through the room. "Did he say Delta Squadron?" one cadet whispered. "That's the Ghost Unit," another replied. "They were legends." The Admiral stared at him again, his mind racing. He needed to be sure. "What was your call sign?" he asked quietly. The old man hesitated. The air in the room grew heavy. Everyone seemed to hold their breath. He finally answered, his voice low but clear. "They called me Ghost 5. The words struck like a thunderclap. The hall went completely silent. For a few seconds, no one moved. The Admiral's face turned pale. He remembered that name, Ghost 5, from the reports. The soldier who went missing after saving his entire unit. The man who stayed behind to hold the enemy so others could escape. The man everyone thought had died a hero. The Admiral's hand trembled slightly. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. You can't be," he whispered. The old man smiled faintly, his eyes glimmering with something between sorrow and peace. "I used to be," he said softly. "Once." The Admiral took a slow step forward, his heart pounding. "Ghost 5, he said again, almost to himself. "I thought you were gone." The old veteran looked at him with calm eyes. "Sometimes, Admiral," he said, "the ghosts you think are gone are just waiting to come home." A chill ran through the room. No one dared to speak. Some of the younger cadets looked stunned. The older officers exchanged uneasy looks, realizing they were standing in front of a man whose name was once whispered with respect and fear. A legend thought to be dead. The Admiral swallowed hard. He could feel something heavy pressing on his chest. Guilt, shock, and pride all mixed together. Finally, he straightened his back and gave the old man a deep salute. The old man didn't move at first. Then, slowly, he returned the salute with a quiet grace that carried the weight of decades. The young cadets watched silently. None of them fully understood what was happening, but they knew they were witnessing something rare, a moment that only happens once in a lifetime. The Admiral's voice broke the silence. "Gentlemen," he said firmly, "show your respect." One by one, every man in the hall stood and saluted. The air was thick with emotion. Some had tears in their eyes. The legend had returned. The man they thought was gone forever. And as the old veteran lowered his hand, a faint smile touched his lips. He had come back, not as a ghost, but as a reminder that true heroes never really disappear. The hall stayed silent long after the salute ended. No one dared to move or speak. The air felt heavy, filled with memories that didn't belong to most of the people in the room. The young cadets still stood frozen, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The man before them, this quiet, weathered old veteran, was not an ordinary visitor. He was someone from history, someone whose name had been buried in classified files and whispered legends. The Admiral slowly lowered his hand. His voice came out steady, but his eyes showed something deeper: confusion, disbelief, and a trace of guilt. "Ghost 5, he repeated quietly, almost as if saying the name would help him believe it. "That name hasn't been spoken in 30 years. The old man looked at him, calm and collected. 33 to be exact, he said softly. "Time moves fast, Admiral, especially for those who were never supposed to return." The room grew colder. The sound of the ceiling fan above seemed louder now. The old man's words carried something dark, like the weight of unfinished business. Admiral Bennett took a step closer. "Where have you been all these years?" he asked. "The reports said you were lost in action, that your jet went down behind enemy lines." The old man gave a faint smile. "That's what they were told," he said, his voice almost a whisper. "But not everything that happens in war makes it to the report." Some of the officers exchanged uneasy glances. The young cadets leaned forward in curiosity. Every sentence from the old man seemed to pull them deeper into his story. The Admiral frowned. "You mean you survived the crash?" The old man nodded slowly. "I survived the crash, but survival doesn't always mean living." The Admiral blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned his gaze toward the window. Outside, the American flag waved proudly in the morning light. He seemed lost in thought for a few seconds, then said, "Sometimes, Admiral, the hardest part of war isn't dying. It's what you live with after you don't." The Admiral stood quietly, unable to respond. His chest felt tight. There was something haunting in the way the man spoke. Calm, but filled with unspoken pain. A younger officer finally gathered the courage to speak. "Sir," he said politely, "if I may ask, what happened after the crash?" The old man's eyes flickered toward him. "After the crash," he said, "I woke up in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by silence and smoke. My radio was dead. My team was gone. The enemy was closing in. I thought it was over." He paused, taking a slow breath. But it wasn't. Everyone listened closely. Even the kitchen staff had stopped working, standing by the doorway to hear. "I found a small cave near the ridge," the old man continued. "I hid there for 2 days. I had no food, no water, and a broken leg. I could hear them searching. Dogs, trucks, soldiers shouting my name. They wanted me alive. They wanted Ghost 5. Why?" Admiral Bennett asked quietly. The old man's expression darkened. "Because I had something they wanted, and something they feared." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "What was it?" The old man looked straight at him. "Information," he said softly, "about Operation Phantom Strike." "Information," he said softly, "about Operation Phantom Strike." At that name, several older officers exchanged nervous looks. The Admiral's face tightened. That operation was top secret. Even now, most of the reports were still classified. It was a mission so dangerous that only a handful of people knew the full truth, and Ghost 5 had been one of them. "Phantom Strike," the Admiral repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. "That mission was erased from the records. They said it never happened." The old man nodded. "That's what they wanted people to believe. The room seemed to shrink. Everyone could feel the tension rising. The air itself felt heavier. The Admiral took another step closer, lowering his voice. "Tell me, Ghost 5, why come back now? After all these years, why today?" The old man looked down at his hands that once controlled the skies, now scarred and trembling slightly with age. "I came back," he said quietly, "because I was tired of being a ghost." The Admiral frowned. "I don't understand." The old veteran raised his eyes again. "You will," he said. "But first I need to ask you something." The Admiral blinked in surprise. "Me?" "Yes," the old man said. "Tell me, Admiral Bennett, do you remember what happened on May 17th, 1992? The Admiral froze. His mind went blank for a moment. That date, he hadn't thought about it in years. It was the day of Phantom Strike. The day he was rescued. I remember the day," he said slowly. "But I was told the rescue was coordinated from base command. I never knew who actually saved us." The old man smiled faintly. "You're looking at him." The Admiral's breath caught in his throat. The room was dead silent again. Every eye turned toward Ghost 5. "I was ordered to cover your retreat," the old man continued. "You and your team were trapped behind enemy lines. I was supposed to draw their fire until you escaped. That was the plan." The Admiral swallowed hard. "You stayed behind." "I stayed behind," Ghost 5 said. "I thought I could hold them for 5 minutes. It turned into 6 hours. The silence grew heavier. "I lost contact," the old man went on. "And when I finally made it out, the base had already declared me dead. They wrote my name on a wall, gave me a medal I never received, and moved on." The Admiral couldn't speak. His throat felt dry. For years he had believed that the pilot who saved him was gone. That nameless hero, the man who never returned, was standing right in front of him. "I tried to come back once," Ghost 5 said quietly. "But some doors don't open twice. The military didn't want ghosts walking their halls." The Admiral felt a wave of guilt wash over him. "You should have been honored," he said softly. "You saved us all." Ghost 5 shook his head. "Honor isn't always found in medals, Admiral. Sometimes it's in knowing you did what was right, even if no one remembers." The Admiral's voice trembled. "But I remember now." Ghost 5 gave a faint smile. "Then that's enough." The two men stood face to face again. Behind them, young cadets watched in awe, their hearts pounding. They were seeing what no book or classroom could ever teach. The weight of sacrifice, the cost of silence, and the power of truth. But before anyone could speak again, a sudden noise came from outside, the sound of approaching boots and the faint crackle of a radio. Ghost 5's eyes shifted toward the door. His calm expression changed for the first time. "Seems like someone else remembers me too," he said quietly. The Admiral turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Ghost 5 didn't answer. He simply looked toward the window, his gaze distant and unreadable. And in that moment, the Admiral realized the story wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. The sharp sound of boots echoed outside the dining hall. The guards near the door looked uneasy, unsure of what was happening. The Admiral's eyes darted toward the entrance, then back at Ghost 5. The old veteran stood still, his posture straight and calm, as if he had expected this moment all along. A few seconds later, 2 uniformed officers entered. Their expressions were serious. One of them leaned close to the Admiral and whispered something in his ear. The Admiral's face hardened instantly. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. The officer nodded. "Yes, sir." His name triggered a security alert the moment it was mentioned. The Admiral looked back at Ghost 5. "It seems," he said slowly, "that someone still keeps your file locked." Ghost 5 gave a faint, humorless smile. "I told you, Admiral, some ghosts don't rest easy." The younger officers and cadets exchanged confused glances. The room buzzed with quiet tension. Who was this man really? Why would the mention of his name cause such a reaction? The Admiral gestured for everyone to stay calm and then addressed the old man directly. "Let's talk somewhere private," he said. Ghost 5 nodded. "Good idea." They moved to a smaller briefing room down the corridor. It was quiet there. The kind of silence only found in rooms that had seen too many secrets. The lights flickered softly against old photographs of aircraft and war heroes. The Admiral closed the door behind them. "Tell me everything," he said firmly. "What really happened after the crash?" Ghost 5 pulled out a small, weathered notebook from his jacket pocket. The cover was torn, the edges burnt. He placed it gently on the table. "It's all here," he said. "Everything they wanted buried." The Admiral hesitated before touching it. "What is this?" "My mission log," Ghost 5 said. "The truth about Phantom Strike." The Admiral flipped through the pages. The handwriting was rough and uneven, written in pencil and smudged by dirt. There were dates, coordinates, and strange markings. Then one sentence stood out. "They knew we were coming." The Admiral looked up. "What does that mean?" Ghost 5 leaned back in his chair. His eyes darkened. It means someone on the inside betrayed us. The room went completely still. I was supposed to lead a rescue team to extract hostages, Ghost 5 continued. But the moment we entered enemy airspace, they were waiting. Anti-air guns hit our lead jet within minutes. Communications jammed. It was chaos, the Admiral frowned. But the report said it was a weather failure. Ghost 5 shook his head. That's what they wanted you to believe. Someone high up didn't want that mission to succeed. They fed us to the wolves and erased the proof. The Admiral felt a cold shiver down his spine. Are you saying there was a mole in command? Ghost 5 nodded slowly. Not just a mole, a handler. Someone who traded information for power. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Do you know who? The old man hesitated, his fingers tightening around the edge of the table. I had a name once, he said, but after I was captured, everything changed. Captured? The Admiral repeated. Ghost 5 nodded. For 7 months. They kept me in a small cell, deep underground. No light, no time. They wanted me to talk, wanted the names of the men on my team. But I never said a word. The Admiral leaned forward. How did you escape? The old man smiled faintly. Luck and a storm. He paused, eyes distant. One night, lightning hit the power grid. The guards panicked. I broke free, found a uniform, and walked out like a ghost. The Admiral stared in disbelief. You disappeared into thin air. That's why they called me Ghost 5, the old man said softly. 5 men went in. Only one came out. The Admiral sat back speechless. The truth was even darker than the legends. For decades, stories of Ghost 5 had circulated in whispers. A pilot who had sacrificed himself to save his team. But no one knew he had lived, hunted by the same system he once served. The Admiral spoke carefully. Why come back now? After all this time, why not stay hidden? Ghost 5 looked directly at him. Because I heard the name of the man who betrayed us. And he's still in uniform. The Admiral's heart skipped a beat. What are you saying? I'm saying, Ghost 5 said quietly. The man who sold us out never faced justice. And he's been promoted. A heavy silence fell over the room. The Admiral's expression changed from shock to anger. Do you know where he is? Ghost 5 nodded. He's here. On this base. The Admiral stood abruptly. That's impossible. I would have known. Would you? The old man interrupted. You've trusted too many people, Admiral. Some of them wear medals that don't belong to them. The Admiral felt his stomach twist. If Ghost 5 was right, that meant someone among his own officers was a traitor. Someone who had sent good men to die and covered it up. Ghost 5 opened the notebook again and pointed to a symbol drawn beside a date. He used this code name, Falcon Red. Check your staff records. You'll find it. The Admiral's jaw tightened. If you're lying, I'm not, Ghost 5 said, his tone calm but cold. I've spent 30 years waiting to finish what I started. For a long time, neither man spoke. The ticking of the wall clock was the only sound in the room. Neither man spoke. The ticking of the wall clock was the only sound in the room. Finally, the Admiral reached for his radio. Lieutenant, he said into it. Get me the personnel files on every officer assigned under the codename Falcon Red. Yes, sir, came the reply. Ghost 5's gaze never wavered. He looked like a man who had carried a storm inside him for decades. And now that storm was about to break. After a moment, the Admiral said quietly, You understand. This could cause a scandal. If what you're saying is true, this base, this command, everything could fall apart. The old man's expression didn't change. Sometimes things have to break before they can be rebuilt. The Admiral exhaled slowly, feeling the full weight of what was unfolding. What do you want from me, Ghost 5? The old man leaned forward. His eyes, though aged, burned with purpose. I want the truth to be seen, he said. I want the men who died on Phantom Strike to finally rest. The Admiral looked at him for a long time. Then he nodded once. You have my word, he said. I'll find out who Falcon Red is. A faint smile crossed Ghost 5's face. Then the mission isn't over yet. Just then, the radio crackled again. Sir, the voice said hesitantly, we found something, but you might want to see it yourself. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. What is it? The officer's voice was tense. It's a restricted file, sir. But it's marked with your signature. The Admiral froze. The room went dead silent. Ghost 5's eyes met his, calm but knowing. Now you understand, he said softly. Ghosts don't come back for no reason. And in that moment, the Admiral realized the truth might not just destroy others. It could destroy him too. The room felt colder now. The Admiral stood frozen beside the radio, his mind spinning. The voice on the other end repeated softly. Sir, the file with the codename Falcon Red carries your signature. Ghost 5's eyes stayed fixed on him. Calm but sharp. I told you, he said quietly. Not all ghosts come to haunt others. Some come to remind you of what you've forgotten. The Admiral's throat tightened. You think I was the traitor? He said slowly. The old veteran didn't answer right away. He simply reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal tag. Old, scratched, and burned at the edges. He placed it gently on the table between them. The Admiral stared at it. It was a military ID tag. His own name was engraved on it, Charles Bennett, but the chain was broken and blackened by fire. I found this in the wreckage, Ghost 5 said. I kept it all these years. It reminded me that someone was worth saving that night. The Admiral's eyes softened. You saved me. Yes, Ghost 5 said, but I never knew why that mission went wrong, until I escaped. Then I learned the truth. He took a deep breath and continued. The traitor used your signature, Admiral. He forged your orders to move the team early. That's why the ambush happened. You were framed. The Admiral's hands trembled slightly. Framed? Yes, Ghost 5 nodded. Someone high in command needed a scapegoat. Your name was perfect, young, respected, obedient. They erased your record later, but by then it was too late. Everyone believed Phantom Strike failed because of your command. The Admiral sank into his chair, the color leaving his face. For years he had wondered why his promotion slowed, why certain files disappeared, why whispers followed him. Now the puzzle pieces finally made sense. Ghost 5's voice softened. I didn't come back to destroy you, Admiral. I came back so the truth could finally breathe. The Admiral looked up, his eyes wet but burning with anger. Who was it? Who forged my name? Ghost 5 opened his old notebook again. He turned to the last page and slid it across the table. There was one name written there in faded pencil. General Marcus Harlow. The Admiral's jaw tightened. He's the chief of command now. I know, Ghost 5 said quietly, and he's the one who called me dead. A heavy silence fell over them. The ticking of the clock sounded louder than ever. The Admiral rose to his feet. He buried you. He buried the truth. And now, Ghost 5 said, it's time he faces it. The Admiral walked to the phone on the wall and picked it up. This is Admiral Bennett, he said firmly. I need an urgent connection to the Chief of Command. His tone left no room for hesitation. Ghost 5 watched silently as the Admiral's voice grew sharper, his authority returning with every word. When he hung up, the old man smiled faintly. Feels good, doesn't it? To finally fight the right battle. The Admiral turned to him. You'll get your justice, Ghost 5. I swear it. The veteran looked down at his worn hands. Justice isn't for me, he said softly. It's for the ones who never came back. Outside, the sound of jets roared in the distance. A new generation training for missions they could never imagine. Ghost 5 stood slowly, saluted the Admiral one last time and whispered, Mission complete. The Admiral returned the salute, his voice low. Welcome home, soldier. And as Ghost 5 walked out of the base into the bright morning light, the legend finally became a man again, a forgotten hero who had carried truth through time, and now at last could rest.